So this presentation is going to be on training and certification. And then we'll discuss setting up accounts we'll need to access the AARP portal and Practice Lab, where we'll generate our practice tax returns. Why study and require certification? Well, the time we put into studying tax law translates to the quality of service and the product, which is a complete and filed tax return that we provide to our clients, the taxpayers. So to become a knowledgeable tax preparer requires more than just passing tests. It requires knowing how to look up what you don't know and asking questions. Now remember, you don't need to memorize anything. Right? We're not expected to be the experts on this. The IRS tests are all open book, they're not timed, and when preparing taxes, you'll have the main reference books, IRS Publication 4012 and the Tax-Aide Scope Manual, right? And other volunteers to guide you. You're not doing this alone. Here's the path to certification that we'll be following. It starts with an orientation and some initial training, which we hope to accomplish today. We'll then launch into a self-study program, which is being offered via classroom and or online training, with mentors being assigned to every new volunteer. Now, our self-study program will provide all the training necessary to successfully take and complete certification tests required by the IRS. We'll also complete 2 AARP policy courses that will be available online. These basically take less than an hour each to complete, well less than an hour. We'll then be assigned 4 proficiency problems. Now, they'll require the generation of Massachusetts tax returns. They aren't graded. They're assigned to help ensure that tax counselors are proficient in Massachusetts tax law. Now, same as our self-study exercises, you'll be provided with the answers. Now, upon completion of these requirements, you'll be certified as a Tax-Aide volunteer and ready for the upcoming tax season. We'll be looking at 2 main areas of training and certification in this presentation. There's a Tax-Aide training, that's under AARP Tax-Aide, and IRS training and certification. Here are the certification and training requirements for each volunteer role. As counselors, you'll need to prepare for and pass the first 2 IRS exams. It's the Volunteer Standards of Conduct and the Intake Interview and Quality Review exam. Now, these exams are each 10 questions. Another requirement for all volunteers is to complete 2 AARP training courses, Policies and Procedures and Technology and Security, which simply require watching online instruction. That's it. They're non-graded. We just need to walk through the courses online. By the way, I purposely said we just now because returning volunteers are required to take these courses as well every year. So as you're completing your training and certification requirements, returning volunteers are doing the same. So tax counselors will also need to pass the IRS Advanced Tax Certification Test and complete assigned Massachusetts proficiency tax returns, normally 4, and then attend Mass State Update training in January. That's usually about a 2-hour presentation. Now it'll be recorded, so if you can't attend in person, you can watch the presentation online. The intent of the training and certification process is not to weed out volunteers via testing. It's to ensure we're as prepared and able to follow proper procedures as possible and apply the tax law correctly. 2 final comments. First, I've shown local, which includes site and shift coordinators being required to meet all of the training and testing requirements. In some situations, this may not be the case. A local coordinator might not want to be a tax counselor and therefore not need to complete some of these requirements. And second, I can't emphasize this enough. Please remember that all of the exams are open book and they're not timed. You actually have a couple of months to take them. So you don't need to memorize anything. We, your instructors, mentors, local coordinators, and fellow volunteers will help to make sure that you know where to find information that will help you successfully complete the exams and prepare tax returns in the future. So, okay, let's take a look at the AARP training requirements first and how we'll set up accounts to access that training. The Tax-Aide training includes a number of WRP courses that are non-graded. That should be 2. Now, volunteers simply need to put in the time to view them. We believe the required courses will be the same as last year. Again, Tax-Aide policies and procedures and Tax-Aide technology and security. They're simple courses that cover topics like protecting information and using strong passwords for all of our accounts. Tax counsels will also be required, again, to demonstrate proficiency in preparing the Form S returns. They're not a formal test. Again, just another way to ensure we're better prepared. That's all it is. So in order to ensure our tax law knowledge is up to date, we provide presentations on federal and Massachusetts tax law updates in January. Attendance at the Massachusetts one, as I've already mentioned, is mandatory, although the attendance requirement can be met by watching a video of the presentation. So the addresses for the AARP portal, or the address where the AARP courses are located, is provided on this slide. Please note that Internet Explorer browser is not supported. So as a reminder, please submit your CORI form. Once it's been submitted, you'll receive an invitation to set up a AARP portal account. Until you submit your CORI, you can't set up a AARP account. Well, let's walk through the process for setting up an account and accessing the required AARP courses. By the way, those courses are not available yet. We will let you know when they become available. Usually it's early December or so, from at least my past experience. Here's what the portal sign-on screen looks like. So accessing the portal requires that you set up an account. You can do this by selecting the Create Account link on this page in the red box. We're going to assist you in setting up your accounts, provided, again, your CORI has been submitted and access has been approved. When you select the option to create an account, you'll then be asked to provide some personal information and create a password. Your email address will be used as your username. So every time you sign in, you'll be required to provide your username, password, and key in the letters displayed near the bottom of the sign-in page. There always, or always have been since I've been a volunteer, 3 capital letters of the alphabet. When you successfully sign in, the AARP portal main page will be displayed. Notice there are tabs near the top, including a tab for, quote, training. Selecting the training tab will then cause this page to appear. And this displays the status of Tax-Aide training courses that have been assigned to you. Notice you might have courses to do, overdue, or completed. The status in this slide indicates I have 2 courses assigned that need to be completed and 5 courses that have been completed. Now, as a tax counselor and local coordinator, I was assigned 7 courses last year. You'll only be assigned 2 courses. Please be aware you might be assigned courses that aren't required. You can watch anything you want, right? But some of the courses are required and others are just recommended. Don't depend on what's assigned. I'll let you know what's required. And these courses might not be available just yet, as I mentioned. We'll let you know when they're available. Launch each course and follow the discussion. These courses are not graded. You just need to complete them. You can't skip to the end of a section. You have to go all the way through the material. Now, questions are asked along the way to help to ensure you comprehend the material. If you have limited time, you can start a course and exit at any point. You have to go all the way through. When you return to the course, it'll restart right where you left off. Now, once you've completed a course, it'll be marked complete. We don't need to see printed certificates of completion for these courses. Your local coordinator can see which courses you've been assigned and which courses you've completed. Now, please let your local coordinator know when you've completed all the courses. Again, should be 2 in the AARP portal. Note that on the slide, we can see actual courses. Now, the slide shows 3 of the completed courses. Selecting the Not Started, In Progress, and Overdue tabs in my training section would show courses currently in those statuses. That's all there is for training in the AARP portal. Total time to complete these tests is probably about 40 minutes each. All right, let's look at the IRS certification. All right, all I'm going to say right now is the certification site is being upgraded at this point. So we've been told it should be available as of now, the week of 11 November, but we'll let you know when it's available. All right, let's talk about taking and we certainly hope passing the IRS exams. First, there's no time limit on when we have to be finished, with the exception that we must be finished by the beginning of the tax season, which is months away, right? You don't have to worry about finishing by the end of November or December. We can start and stop an exam at any point after it's been launched. If you open the exam and you need to research the first question, you can pause it or leave the exam while determining the correct answer. Once you've answered all the exam questions, you'll be provided with a summary of all your answers before your final submission. Make sure to write down your answers. When your score is calculated, you'll be provided a summary that shows which questions you answered correctly and which, if any, are not correct. You won't be provided the correct answer. Knowing a wrong answer can help if taking a retest is required. Now, if you fail on the first attempt on a test, talk with your local coordinator before attempting to take the test again. You'll need to take the retest exam for any second attempt. Feel free to post questions to your mentor or local coordinator related to test questions. You're not allowed to ask for help with specifics of actual test questions, just how to handle a subject matter or where to find reference material that covers the question subject matter. Now, all the questions are in publication 6744, which is currently available online. I'd recommend working on the exams offline first on the paper copy and then entering the answers online. Don't go in and start taking the test. We'll let you know when it's appropriate to do that. And actually, that will be at the end of this self-study and our study program in this fall. Okay. So we just mentioned the VITA TC Volunteers, Assisters, Test and Retest book or publication. That's publication 6744. All of the tests will be, IRS tests, are in that document. Now, counselors are required to pass the 3 tests with 80% or better. The first one, the volunteer standards of conduct, 10 simple questions. Somebody offers you a $20 bill. What do? Easy. You need to get 8 out of 10 correct. Intake interview and quality review, same thing, 8 out of 10 questions. The advanced exam, it's 35 total questions. Half of them are just word questions. The other half, you will need to generate returns, federal tax returns, to answer the questions properly. Again, all in the book, not timed. You can take a couple of months to do this. Take whatever time you need. I will recommend that you pay close attention to wording on the test questions. They'll use phrases like and words like all or most or things like that. I will provide a cheat sheet that will show you and point you to the resources where you can find information relating directly to each of the questions that's going to be on the exam. So there are tests and retests. If you fail to get 80% correct answers on a test, you take a retest where you can essentially go through the same scenarios as you did the first test, but questions will be asked a different way. So the retest is a way to give you a second chance to get your certification if you fail to get it the first try. Now, it's very important that if you fail a test the first time, talk with your local coordinator before taking the retest. And I'll warn you again to beware of tricky type questions. Watch the wording that's used very closely. Pay attention. So I want to emphasize that passing exams is not a difficult task. Hey, I passed them, right? So here's an actual question from the Volunteer Standards of Conduct test. Now, the other questions believe me, are similar to these. On each test, you'll need to get at least 8 out of the 10 questions correct to pass. So here's one of the questions. If a taxpayer offers you a $20 bill because they're so happy about the quality of service they received, what's the appropriate action to take? A, take the $20 and thank the taxpayer for the tip. B, Tell the taxpayer it'd be better to have the $20 deposited directly into your bank account from his refund. C. Thank the taxpayer and explain that you cannot accept any payment for your services. Or D. Refer the taxpayer to the tip jar located at the quality review and print station. I'm sorry, I laugh every time I read D. Obviously, it's C. We are volunteers. We're not allowed to accept any money from anybody. If someone really feels, a taxpayer really feels like they have to do something and they've got to do something, then tell them to donate to their favorite charity, whatever they're going to tip you. Or like here in Plymouth, our site in Plymouth, we have at the senior center, it's called the Center for Active Living. We have a group called the Friends of Cal, and they can accept donations, and they use that to further their causes, to help the causes they support. So in our case, I always just say, how about, donate that to the Friends of Cal. You can do the same. One thing you can do, and we have had, if people bring by cookies or a cake or chocolates we had last year, you're free to accept that. It's food. It's going to go bad if you don't eat it. So feel free to accept any gifts like that really aren't monetary in nature. So again, passing the exam is not a difficult task. Quality review is required for every tax return, and a quality review can't be performed by the same tax counselor who prepares the return unless it was a friends and family situation. We can do returns for family and friends, and we're not bound by the rules that are placed on us by Tax-Aide for taxpayers. So we could do unlimited income people, and we can go outside the scope. But any of those returns must be marked as friends and family returns. They don't need to be quality reviewed. Again, they don't need to be quality reviewed. Every other return needs to be quality reviewed. So based on the information I just provided you about quality review for every return, and it can't be performed by the same tax counselor who prepared it, let's look at an actual question from the past intake, interview, and quality review exam. So the site's busy with many taxpayers waiting for assistance. All volunteers are busy preparing tax returns. Can you quality review the return you just prepared instead of waiting for someone else to quality review the return? Yes, if it's a returning taxpayer. Yes, with approval from the site coordinator. No, self-review is never an acceptable quality review method. Or D, no, unless you're certified at the advanced level. Well, the answer is C. Pretty simple. Gave you the answer. Self-review is never an appropriate quality review method. It's not allowed. The intent behind testing and certification isn't to screen people out. It's intended to ensure that we understand the standards we're to follow and that we're prepared to generate tax returns that are as accurate as possible. Okay, moving on. Two documents here. Information on the subject covered in the exams can be found in IRS publication 4961 on the left of the screen. That's for the volunteer standards of conduct. Anything you need to know to answer a question or in your normal course of volunteering, dealing with standards of conduct is in the 4961. The publication 5101 is for the intake interview process. It's also intake interview and quality review. Anything related to intake interview and quality review is covered within that document as well. If we're going to take the driver's test in Massachusetts or need to check a reference for driving rules, the one document we'd use as a reference would be the Massachusetts Driver's Manual. In a similar way, we would hope that there's one reference that we could rely on when preparing tax returns. Well, it turns out there is. It's IRS Publication 4012, the Volunteer Resource Guide. Now, this guide is the primary resource to assist Tax-Aide volunteers in preparing in-scope tax returns using our tax application, TaxLayer. Now, we use a version of this publication, the IRS one, that's modified to reflect Tax-Aide scope and policies. It adds hints and reminders to aid in return preparation and avoid common errors. And it includes additional step-by-step instructions for items that we may not encounter very often. The place where we generate our practice tax returns is called Practice Lab. Think of it as your own personal sandbox, right? To access Practice Lab, you'll need to set up an account. You can set up your account and access Practice Lab in the future by going to the link at the bottom of the slide. The screen on the left side of the slide will be displayed requesting, it's a universal password that we all use, and it is, as it shows there, in capital letters, Train Pro Web, all one word, all caps. Upon entering this password, another screen, it's on the right side of the slide, will be displayed requesting a username and password. Now, you'll need to create an account before being able to sign in by clicking on the Create an Account button, that blue button. When you create your account, you'll need to fill out the fields according to the instructions on the right side of the slide. So use a valid email address. For the password, you create your own username, whatever you wish. Passwords, minimum 15 characters, tells you what you can use, what valid characters are, upper lowercase letters, one number, and one special character. Passwords are case sensitive. The program type, it's AARP Tax-Aide. Just select from the list and do not make an entry for the site identification number. Leave it blank. Then you go in and complete the password recovery section, press Create Account, and your account should be created. By the way, a note, no one at AARP Tax-Aide has a record of your Practice Lab account information. Once you've entered your account and are able to sign in, you'll then see the Practice Lab homepage, which is shown here on this slide. It contains links to training courses as well, and a link into the practice area. So if we click on the Go to Practice area, we'll see a screen that looks like the following. Here's what our Practice Lab welcome screen looks like. You're now in, when you're on the screen, in the actual tax software, and the tax software we use is TaxSlayer. Now, just one item to note is that the software, at least the time that this presentation was created, is still for tax year 2023. So the field that's highlighted near the top right provides a drop-down menu that allows counselors to select the tax year for the return they're generating or searching for. During tax season, if it's a prior year return, we would go in and use the drop-down menu to select. If it's, say, a 2022 return, we'll put a 2022 return. Now, once the software is updated, 2024 will be in here as well. But the latest in the tax software we'll be using during the course of our program this fall is for 2023, at least at this point in time. So we'll be covering the use of Practice Lab and the underlying software TaxSlayer as we progress through our self-study program. I'm also going to generate demonstrations on how to set up an account for Practice Lab, which we just walked through, and I'll set up a general, here's how to navigate through Practice Lab and the software. Here's our current syllabus, which lists all the training presentations we'll be covering through December, well, up till December. Please note there'll be additional training in January that will cover any federal and Massachusetts tax updates. Again, although you're not required to attend our fall training sessions, there will be a requirement in January to attend a presentation on Massachusetts tax law, either live online or by watch and recording, either live or watch and recording. This year, the National Tax Training Committee has created a single self-study document. It's called the Self-Study Counselor Training and Certification Course that's geared towards new volunteers. So completion of the study guide will provide all of the training necessary to successfully complete our federal certification requirements. We'll also be covering some less common topics in another self-study guide. It's called the Self-Study Less Common Advanced Topics, that they won't be on the certification test. They're going to be at the end of our program. They're just intended to help round out your knowledge prior to the kickoff of tax season. So notice in the syllabus that the two self-study guides are listed. To save space, they're referred to as SS1, right? And that's the Counselor Training and Certification course, and SS2, which is that Self-Study Less Common Advanced Topics. they're really less common. The ones we're going to be looking at are not advanced tax topics. You just don't see them that often, but you certainly may. So the specific pages covered for each training session are also noted on the syllabus. And here are the two self-study documents. Again, our focus will be on the counselor training and certification course shown here on the left. No one expects a new volunteer tax counselor or even an experienced one to fully understand tax law. So as a reminder, you're not expected to memorize everything. You're really not expected to memorize anything. It's more important to know where to look to find the information you need. Okay, what's next? So we've now explored how to set up the necessary accounts and walk through the certification and training requirements. Our first task is to set up a AARP portal account. We walk through that. You'll not be able to do this until your query form is submitted, so please submit it if you haven't already done so. Now, next, ensure you have access to the NTTC Self-Study Counselor Training and Certification course. You can access this document by first using the link provided at the bottom of this slide. Now, this will provide a copy of the training links, what's called the training links for new volunteers. This contains links to all the sites, including Practice Lab and the AARP portal, and the documents needed to complete our self-study program. Note, when you access this link, you may only be looking at a picture. If you access the link, you may be looking at a picture of the training links for new volunteers. To enable the links, you may need to download the document first. Right? Some people have gone there and said these links aren't working. That's because they're looking at a picture. There should be an icon for downloading. Click that icon on your screen. If you're having trouble, contact me directly. I'll help you. I intend to send out a copy of the new volunteer links attached to an email to all of the new volunteers, so you'll get a copy of it. Next, create a Practice Lab account. The directions are in Lesson 3 in the Counselor Training and Certification course, and complete Exercise 1 in that lesson. So Lesson 3, Exercise 1, I believe it deals with W-2 form and entering a W-2 form. Now, if you've not been assigned or contacted by a mentor, please let me know. If you haven't seen it, here's a copy of the training links for new volunteers we just discussed in the last slide. Here you'll find links to the two sites we need to access. They're highlighted in blue. That's the Practice Lab and AARP Volunteer Portal. You can also access and download a copy of the Self-Study Counselor Training and Certification course and the answer sheet containing the correct answers for all the course exercises. So there are also links to the main resource guides that we'll be referencing, the NTTC Volunteer Resource Guide, publication 4012, and the Volunteer Training Guide, publication 4491. There's even a link to the IRS exams that we'll be taking, which are in Form 6744, the Volunteer Assisters Test/Retest document. And this is normally where we pause for questions and comments, but this is the end of this presentation.